Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Collins and welcome back to Outsiders. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hey, that's George Clooney, isn't it? And I'm not going to argue with you. But I've got to explain why I'm here today and what I'm doing. This is an interlude video. This video isn't part of the advanced video series, but in a way I suppose it's connected. It's just I wanted to share with you today some things that have really are part of me as a DM and what I like to do when I do what I do around that table, the craft that I like to try and create, and hopefully share with you, I hope, some magic and some things that you can maybe take into your games, and even at the very minimum, maybe share with videos of your own some of the things that you like to do. Now, I have found one of the great ways to immerse your players into games is sometimes as a referee, you have to put yourself out on a limb, on the edge. And dressing up this way to start and run a game of Cthulhu, which is what I'm currently doing in Warwickshire, has been an absolute inspiration. First of all, the coat makes it look like I'm some sort of doctor, possibly even some sort of sanatorium type doctor, mental institute type person. I'm wearing a badge called the Order of Dagon. I have pens, I'll have all sorts of accoutrements that I want to carry with me, and also it allows me to do something else which is quite submersive within the storylines, because I'm able to, at the beginning of every game, I'm able to create a persona. In this particular case, it's a Frenchman that I've created, whose job his name is Jacob Scargovia, and his job effectively is he's talking to a bunch of students around the table about explaining about that only one of them can be selected in the Order of Dagon. There's an exam at the end, and they're looking back at one of his most famous cases, and that's the case that the players are actually involved in. And at no point does he really give any clues, but this is always the best way I found to start. It keeps the players really excited, keeps them on their toes, because they're always wondering what's going to happen. So an example of that, I'm just going to give you a snippet of what we've recently done. So I'll just put myself into that character for a split second, and see, and just so you can see what I will do with it. So I will begin the game something along the lines of the following: my friends, welcome once again back around the table here in Arkham to look at today the next steps in the investigation I described to you last time. Now, we left off where the team had reached the point where they needed to make contact with their benefactor. Now, before they get to that point, I must also remind you, my friends, that at the end of this course, only one of you will be selected into the Order of Dagon. I'm afraid the others, well, they will be released. But, needless to say, we will... I want to make it clear about this test. There is only one question with one answer, okay? And it is relevant to the work that we have been doing. Anyway, I digress. Now we look back at this case in more detail and the next steps, and then I would go into my DMing role. And I found that you can link both, and also DMing in a white coat for Cthulhu is, in my view, well, it's brilliant. It was just a touch of genius, really. So, not only that, but what I then try to do is I also look at things that are going to give me something additional to the game that I'm putting on the table. So let me try and quantify and explain that a little bit further. So when you're running, and I'm running first edition Cthulhu, I'm not running any particular edition. I personally think, all the editions are very similar. I think it's your own take. I'm a great fan for Cthulhu, where it's a bit like the X-Files. Cthulhu's, the Cthulhu mythos is out there somewhere, and if the players ever meet it, then there are only really three likely conclusions: insanity, death, or a combination of those two. So I tend to not have that. That should be the very final thing in a long-running campaign. It's more about the investigation, the cultists that they deal with, that sort of thing. So where I'm going with this is fairly simple. I wanted to create, because it's first edition Cthulhu, I wanted to create some mechanics, because I'm going to look at that 30% we've discussed in some of our videos, and it's relevant for me as an experienced GM, because yeah, sure, there are bits I can do as a GM to tweak my 70%. There's lots of stuff I can do to get a really good game by recognising the audience around that table. But one of the parts I can also influence is the 30%, because I can tailor it more towards the taste of that group. Now, in the Warwickshire groups, what I found that's really good is that they're much more adaptable. They're prepared to accept, you coming up with some quite elaborate or clever little mechanical things that will really engross them into the game. So that's what I've done. Now next to me here, you probably can't see it on camera, I've got my trusty box. Now I'll pull it up so you can see the size of the box. I always take this box in, I'm sure some of you have seen it before, but I'm just going to bring this box up. This is my trusty box. It is a big size, and it probably looks massive on the screen. It is a big box. This is an paintball box that I've adapted specifically for DMing. I do it for a number of reasons, and again I've touched on these before in other videos, but I want to do it again here. It's imposing, it can be used as a shield, it's got multiple uses, and what people don't know, there's a lot of work that goes into the box, there's a lot of stuff in there, so it's always, every time I pull anything out, it's like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat. They're always excited to see what's coming next, and that really works. So, what I did with the Cthulhu game, coming back to it quickly, is I wanted to think about all the mechanical things from the ground floor up. So the first thing that I worked with, and I'm going to pull out one of their character sheets at random, is, and there's one here, it's not particularly well organised, so what we'll do, we'll just quickly open it up and just have a look through. And you can see that the players themselves are, well, they're making their own notes and drawings, but the sheets are I wanted to create, and it's a 1920s game, set mid-1920s, so I created some Art Deco sheets for the players. Also as well, so just so you can sort of see it, so it's an Art Deco type sheet that we've created specifically for this game. I also sent out, actually, and I'll have to hide the person's address, but because it wouldn't be fair to show it, but what you would be able to see, if I just cover up part of it, is that I've actually sent one of the players an actual telegram in the post. So I've actually sent them out a telegram in the post for this particular game. Now, on top of that, not only do they have the character sheet, but I also put into the sheet two things. The first thing was that at the front they had a particular card, and I asked them how that related to their family and where that was important. And on the back, everybody's got something unique. In this case, this guy's got a Cthulhu mask, and that also relates into the game. So it's several ways of engrossing the characters into what I'm going to do as a game. So I've thought about not only this sheet, I've thought about some of the mechanics that can go into the game, how that can be useful. So in this case, that's avoiding a Cthulhu, which I'll explain in a minute. Also, this part to get them more into their family background about their characters, etc. So I'll just leave that to one side. And you'll notice a couple of other things as well. I suppose it's probably worth pointing them out. Let's just smear them out a bit. I'm not sure what he's got in there, but he's got a couple of bits missing. There should be a toe tag, which isn't filled in because he's not dead, which I thought was brilliant, and you can then hang those onto the side of your box, which I think is absolutely fantastic. It may sound cruel, but it's beautiful in its own little way. I also developed as well, and I think there are a few here, so we've got, and these are out there, you can find them, some Arkham Insanity certificates for every character, because inevitably you might be suffering from some permanent or temporary insanities, depending on what you do. So already the whole game's already taken a life of its own, just on those little things. Now, let's start getting into the mechanics. I'm going to have to pull this one out. Now this actually, technically, without the numbers on it, is from a Steve Jackson game. And I decided to, in the politest possible way, bastardise the dice and use it for my game in a different way, which is one of the great things that you can do, because obviously Cthulhu is percentile based. So I decided that I was going to tackle this slightly different, and I've realised now, looking at the video here, that this will probably also have to be broken into two parts. So I think what we'll probably do before we talk about this dice is I think we'll bring this video to a close so that I can focus more on some of the little mechanical things that I've done. At this point, you've obviously, you know, as a quick recap, we've seen the character sheet, we've seen some of the uniquenesses to the character sheet, some of the depth that I've gone to. I've even sent out a telegram, because the power of that coming through the post was immense. Insanity certificates, the death tags, the little toe tags, had them laughing in the aisles and wearing the white coat, and what that can do in this particular case for this game was immeasurable. And it puts you at the edge, because you don't know how it's going to go down and how it's going to be respected. But the power of it, whew, wow, it really elevated the game, and it is elevating the game to another level. When we come back after this short break, we'll have a look at this dice and some of the other mechanics that I'm using in a little bit more detail. Anyway, I've been Sean Connors. This has been Outsiders, or should I say, I've been George Clooney. This has been Outsiders. Till the next time, take care of yourselves. Happy gaming.